SportsCenter, the 49ers wasting no time in their offseason, getting their superstar tight end on the books for the foreseeable future. San Francisco locking up six-time Pro Bowler George Kittle in a deal. It is a 4-year extension worth over $76 million, including $40 million of that guaranteed. Kittle has played his entire career in San Francisco after being drafted in the 5th round in 2017. As promised, Peter Schrager here to break all things down. We had a bunch of different questions scripted for you, and then we get the breaking news 10 minutes ago. That's show business, baby. So, Peter, what is your reaction to this extension?
Well, it keeps George Kittle as a 49er, as he should be. Back in 2020, 5 years ago, they had a long, arduous contract negotiation that ended up with having Kittle being the highest paid tight end in the league. That was in 2020. I remember it because I remember speaking with George the day after, and I said, how'd you celebrate? He said, well, we had some Panda Express and wine in my apartment last night. I said, that's George Kittle for you. Yeah. 5 years later, this was going down that road again, where it was getting in the public a little bit that Kittle wasn't thrilled with his deal. It was up. Well, they take care of him. And now the question is, if you're keeping this thing going and the consistency, what do we do with Fred Warner? What do we do with Brock Purdy? The Niners, they're not saying their window is closed just yet. They're keeping it open, and it's a lot of the guys that were there for that whole run that took them to 2 Super Bowl appearances and all those NFC Championship games.
Because Debo is now in D.C., and you're looking at Kittle, 31 years old, still led the 49ers in receiving yards and touchdowns and catches. All right, let's run the 2-minute drill. Here we go. 128 days until opening night. Draft is over. Free agency, they're done barring any unexpected chaos. So what storylines, Schrags, should we be watching for right now?
All right, here are just 4 stories that I would keep an eye on over the next several months. First is Aaron Rodgers' watch, and I can call it Aaron Rodgers' watch 2025. We got that Jets logo there. He's currently on the market. Who wants him? Well, the Steelers seem to be the team, yet is he actually going to play? Because you saw him on McAfee. He said, I've got some personal things to deal with.
Yep.
I'll tell you this. He told the Giants and the Steelers straight up, I have no timetable. If you want to move on, you can move on. The Giants, they opted to pivot. They went with Russell Wilson and of course, Jameis Winston, and now a rookie. Steelers, Will Howard's the only new quarterback they added. He's a 6th round pick. 2, we got the schedule release, May 14th. It's a couple Wednesdays from now. And I want to see who the Eagles open up with. This, to me, is an interesting one. The NFL usually will pit the teams that they think are going to be relevant at the end of the season. The Eagles' schedule, some of the teams that they could play at home, well, the Rams, the Lions, the Bears, and how about the Raiders? Some interesting teams that they could possibly do, and of course, the entire NFC East is a possibility. Who deserves that prime billing of that Thursday night game? My third one's an interesting one. James Cook. You're like, James Cook? Yeah, we know. Josh Allen's the MVP. A lot of running backs got paid this offseason, including Saquon getting a renegotiated deal that will make him the highest paid running back in the league. James Cook was unbelievable last year. He's entering the final year of his contract. His agent and him have publicly said they want more than $15 million. The Bills have scoffed at that number. James Cook is an amazing player. Awesome, and was huge in that AFC Championship game. They need him. Let's see what they can do. The last one is this. I go Shador, but it's really the Browns quarterback room. Like, I don't know if they can do Hard Knocks because of all the rules, but I would love to just have a camera on all of these names. Now, look, Deshaun Watson, he's going to be paid $46 million to not play. Must be nice. Then you got Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, who was drafted before Shador in the 3rd round, and then Shador Sanders. I'm curious, how does it work out in minicamp? How does it work out in training camp? And then when we get to week 1 with the Cleveland Browns, who is under center?
And that's your 2 minutes. Peter Schrager, a professional, breaking things down this morning.
Because his number 1 go-to guy is under contract.
Well, it feels like they have to be closer to setting the parameters on a Brock Purdy deal. Why else would you commit resources and cap space to George Kittle in this time during the offseason? Like, I get it that his extension might lower the current cap hit in 2025, but you got to think about these extensions in multi-year terms, right? Like, you've got to make sure that your salary cap is in good shape, not just for this year, but for the foreseeable future. So slotting in the George Kittle contract before you get the Brock Purdy deal done seems counterintuitive, but them getting this Kittle deal done and allowing Kittle to reset the market at the tight end position for new money average makes me feel like they're on the verge of being able to get something done with Brock Purdy.
I wonder what the number will be, though, for Brock. Because if I'm him and I've gone to a Super Bowl, I'm certainly going to ask for the moon. I know that they have cleared the decks for me. I know that their intentions are to sign me. So I would ask for a big number. And what's the worst they say? No. But knowing now that George Kittle is done, I'm sure all attention swings to Brock Purdy. And I'm wondering if it's going to happen sooner rather than later. If they just want to get it done and proceed forward.
I would venture to think later rather than sooner. But this obviously is telling. I guess what's the deadline for both parties? And let me describe what I mean by deadline. For Purdy, it's I'm not showing up anymore.
But he's there.
Right. I'm saying what's the deadline of like he's there and then he starts to not be there or the hold in? And what's the deadline for the Niners of if you're not going to sign this, we're not going to sign you. Like as simple as this is the highest we're going to go. Like what is that game 1 of the season? Is that the start of training camp?
I think it's the starting training camp.
So if July or August, whatever it is, training camp starts and they don't have a deal done.
Yeah, he's not going out there and practicing. You can get hurt.
And then who budges in that spot?
Oh, I would have to think it's the 49ers that budge.
Absolutely.
Can I throw a wrinkle in this?
I mean, essentially they would have no season, right? If you don't have Brock Purdy as your starting quarterback.
And coming off 6-11 last year, you would think a team that was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago that does still have these pieces that they're going to try to maximize what window they have, even if it's a small and or closing window. This year is very consequential for this current group.
Yeah, don't be the Miami Heat. Don't torpedo your season before you
Okay,
start.
all right, keep it moving.
Don't do that.
Keep it not relevant. We have George Kittle breaking news.
Don't do that.
Why would you do that?
Don't have the best player on the team be upset.
We saw how it worked out for Miami, or it didn't work out, I guess.
Your superstar quarterback, don't do that.
Are we done? I mean, I know they are.
It seems relevant, right?
Yeah.
To compare George Kittle and Brock Purdy to the Heat?
To Jimmy.
Feels like a stretch. Feels like
Does
an
it feel like a
intentional
stretch?
Feels
Does
like
it,
an
though?
intentional stretch.
The most
like you were
important,
reaching.
the most important player on the team wants a new contract. The organization has not given him one. It hasn't become contentious, but it could, especially the longer this thing drags out.
As you're reasoning this out, it does make sense to make the comp.
Yes, it does. The comp tracks.
I'm just saying.
So can I throw a curveball in all of this? And I'm going to continue to throw this curveball, and you've thrown this curveball, CC. Like, there has to be a point where if the Niners are like, this is ridiculous, from their perspective, and I'm not saying that they're saying this because I truly believe they want Brock Purdy on their team for the next 5 to 10 years. But if they say, this is just getting ridiculous, we're not on the same page, and there's a certain Hall of Famer who's from the Bay Area who Kyle Shanahan loved in the past, just sitting there, and there's a team that thinks they're going to get that guy without a quarterback, I'm just not going to stop playing out the Niners-Steelers hypothetical trade.
With the swap,
Sure.
Brock to Pittsburgh, Rodgers, well, not a trade because he's not, but
yes.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
they trade dance partners.
Yes.
I hear what you're saying, but that only solves the problem for 2025, and presumably a Brock Purdy extension solves the riddle of quarterback for long term.
Yes.
You know this is your guy for the foreseeable future. That's why you're paying all the money. It gives you a certain level of security, not just in the here and now, but long term at the most important position in all of team sports. If you're Kyle Shanahan, isn't that worth it to you to pay the premium for that?
Yes.
Even though from a talent standpoint, Brock Purdy may not be on par with the quarterbacks that are in, his tax bracket. It seems like it would make sense given where the San Francisco 49ers are with all of the flux happening on that team, the organization moving on from stalwarts like Deebo Samuel, like Dre Greenlaw, and others. It seems like it makes sense to offer up stability in the way of a quarterback that took your team to multiple conference championship games and into overtime in a Super Bowl.
Do you think that all of this, weirdly, in one way or another, comes back to the whiff on Trey Lance?
Yes.
Because if you're San Francisco and you mortgaged a lot to move up and get Trey Lance and it didn't work out, you had a hard time identifying your quarterback. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, turns out to be a guy that you can win with. Are there questions about how good he can be? Yeah. But you know that you could get to and win a Super Bowl with that guy. So while we talk about maybe Rodgers still being out there and if Purdy has a high number, could that be something that if the chips fall a certain way, that bears out? if I'm San Francisco, that puts me, after a year with Rodgers, in a position where even in a draft class with better options than this year, I still have to identify my quarterback. And after Trey Lance, it's easier said than done.
I am adamant about what I'm about to say here. If Brock Purdy was drafted where Trey Lance was drafted and had the exact same career after that, he would have already been extended.
Of course.
Because of where he was drafted, there is still a belief, are we sure he's that good? If he and Trey Lance just switched, or are we sure he's worth that, right? If he and Trey Lance just switched draft positions that year, same draft, and he had the exact same career, there is zero doubt in my mind he'd be the highest paid player in the NFL.
Yeah, but here's the interesting part about what you're saying. We're trying to figure out what teams want. Kyle Shanahan has already told us what he wants, what he values. He wants a quarterback that has horsepower with the traits that Trey Lance was bringing to the table. He didn't want somebody else that, has to have everything around them be ideal in order to have success. He had that with Jimmy Garoppolo. He didn't deem that to be enough. That's why he drafted Trey Lance. Then you got the Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, in the draft after that in 2022, and you fell into something. But I'm not sure that if Kyle Shanahan had his way, Brock Purdy is the quarterback that he would choose. And that's where there's a little bit of hesitation when it comes to paying a guy like that upwards of $55 million a year.
And I wonder if it's opposite. But I see, this is the thing.
You wonder if it's opposite?
Yeah, because he's had success with Kirk Cousins. He had success with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's had success with Brock Purdy. And we know he just brought in Mac Jones.
And who's the guy that he invested more in than any of those other guys?
And it makes no sense because it's a departure.
Well, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I'm just telling you. This is what he wanted.
Right.
It didn't work out, but it's what he wanted.
And this is
more than anything or any other quarterback that he had. This is what he wanted.
And the tricky part is the quarterback that maybe could have had the most success under Shanahan or Shanahan's is the guy that got hurt because Shanahan put him back in the game in RG3. When he played in that playoff game against Seattle in his rookie season, RG3 was unbelievable, and the Shanahans were coaching him up, and he was phenomenal. And he wasn't, and then they drafted Cousins in the same draft.
Again, another quarterback that has dominant traits that can run and move. That's what he wanted. That's what he wants.
Yeah. It's a very...
A trade speculation has just emerged that could shake up the defensive balance for both the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. The trade in question involves Bryce Huff, the talented defender from the Eagles, who might be headed to California to strengthen the 49ers roster. In today's video, we'll dive deep into this potential trade, discuss how it could impact both teams, and what it could mean for the NFL season. Don't miss any details, as this move could completely alter the direction of both teams' defenses. Before we get into the details of the Huff trade, it's worth mentioning that Dallas Goedert, the Eagles' tight end, has also been featured in several trade rumors, with some speculation suggesting a potential exit for the player. However, despite the attention Goedert has received, Bryce Huff seems to be the more likely candidate to be traded, due to the current state of the team and specific needs in the defensive sector. While Goedert still generates discussions, Huff's potential move could be the strategic play the Eagles are looking for to give their defense a new direction. This speculation has left fans quite curious about what to expect for the immediate future of the team. Bryce Huff has been standing out in recent seasons, especially after his development under former Jets coach Robert Saleh, who now serves as the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. In 2023, Huff had an impressive season, reaching double-digit sacks, a feat that highlights his skills as a pass rusher. His performance has made him a sought-after name for several teams, and the 49ers are reportedly looking to strengthen their defensive line, something that could be extremely valuable in the context of San Francisco's defense, which already includes star Nick Bosa. If this trade goes through, Huff could join Bosa and Yetur Gross-Matos, creating a stronger and more dangerous defensive line with an even more dominant pass rush. Now, let's discuss what could actually happen with this hypothetical trade between the Eagles and the 49ers. The proposal that has emerged involves a conditional 6th-round pick in the 2026 draft from the 49ers in exchange for Bryce Huff. While the 6th-round pick isn't one of the highest, adding Huff to the San Francisco defense could compensate for the value of the pick, as he brings valuable experience in a defensive system that knows him well. Huff's successful track record in Saleh's scheme, where he was one of the main contributors to quarterback pressure, would make him a key player in the 49ers' pass rush, which is essential for keeping the team's defense among the most feared in the NFL. If this trade is finalized, The 49ers will gain a significant boost to their defense, with Huff potentially playing a key role alongside Bosa. He would contribute not only to pressuring opposing quarterbacks but also help create more depth and strength in the defensive line, which is crucial for the 49ers' success. For the Eagles, this trade could free up salary cap space, allowing the team to seek reinforcements in other areas or even make other moves during the season. The trade could also be a way for the Eagles to strengthen other parts of the team while focusing on other aspects of the roster, should they feel that their defense is already solid without Huff. This possible trade also raises the impact it would have on the rivalry between the two teams. With the 49ers further bolstering their defensive line, the Eagles may need to rethink their strategy for handling the pressure they would face on offense, especially against more aggressive defenses. The planning for the coming seasons could be completely altered, both for the 49ers and the Eagles, depending on how this move is finalized. And what do you think about this trade? Would Bryce Huff be a valuable addition to the 49ers defense, further strengthening the pressure on opposing quarterbacks? Or should the Eagles keep Huff and continue betting on his potential within the team? Leave your opinion in the comments, and let's discuss all the possibilities of this trade together. Stay tuned, as we'll bring you more updates on potential trades and moves in the NFL market. As always, we're here to bring everything to you first. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. See you next time.